everybody, Bob here. Welcome to session number 3 of the Chat GPT Content Reset. So I believe that today is going to be the most important and impactful of all the 4 sessions that we have together, because today we're going to really teach you what it means to create content that leads. We talk about content is proof of your leadership. And up until now, you probably haven't really realized that your content has been telling people something about you. And so if we can kind of think about where we are right now in the process, you've anchored in your truth. We did that in session number 1. You aimed your message, which is what we had you do yesterday with session number 2. Today, we activate your voice. But before I begin and get into that 3rd step of the leadership voice map, I want to say something that I think is important, that I suspect many of you are going to need to hear from me. And here's what it is. I want to just acknowledge that after what we had you do yesterday, there are probably a lot of you that are starting to feel a little bit all over the place, right? On one hand, you're genuinely excited and you're hopeful. You're already starting to notice the shift is starting to happen in you, even though it's these little glimmers of you just starting to feel differently about yourself and your business. And you're hopeful that that's something that could actually take shape. But you're also probably feeling a little bit overwhelmed at this point, especially with us challenging you to go ahead and take the step of putting a post out there and starting to implement what you're learning. And if that's you, I want to let you know it's okay, and I promise you're not alone, and it's actually exactly where you're supposed to be. See, this is the moment that the fire gets lit, but it's also where the questions start to rise up to the surface as well, right? You've done the deep work over the last couple of days. You've remembered your truth. You're seeing that person you're being called to serve. But you're starting to kind of feel that fear-led achiever in you starting to grab hold, right? Maybe yesterday, you bumped right up against it, and you started second-guessing yourself a little bit, because we're requiring you to do something new. Maybe you second-guess the exercise of your dream customer, and you're sitting here today with this thought that I love this, I know this is the way that I want to do business, but I'm not sure if I can keep going on my own. And so if that's you, I just want to say, take a breath. This is the moment where most people get stuck, but we're not going to let that happen for you. And so the reason why we're not going to let it happen for you is because we've built a system and a rhythm and support that will help you take what you have started here in this workshop and actually finish it. Actually walk the shift out to make sure that you take off your fear-led mask forever and you step confidently into this new identity of love-led leadership, and that becomes your new norm, so that you can live the shift instead of thinking about it. And so I'm going to share with you a little bit more at the end of this session how we're going to do that. But I just want you to imagine, what if we could take what you're feeling right now, and what if we could walk this out with you for the next 30 days, where you don't have to figure it out on your own. Every single day, we're right there with you, helping your voice get clearer and helping you step into the belief that you need. That's what we'll be sharing with you. But let's start off with this. So I want to kind of acknowledge something that we've shared over and over again that I think is an important thing for us to clarify today. You don't need me to tell you what your content has felt like, because you live it every day. And if you were honest in the pre-work that we had you do, you've already named it. Your content has been a performance. And so when we talk about it being a performance, I want to get a little bit clearer on what that means, because I say that a lot, but I don't necessarily know that we're completely sure on what that looks like. And so when I say your content is a performance, here's exactly what we're speaking to. So we're speaking to number one. Your content has been a performance for approval, first and foremost. And so when we see approval, you're hoping that somebody's going to tell you you're doing it right so that you can stop questioning yourself every single day. It's been a performance for engagement, right? Every like, every comment becomes a measure of your value. And when you don't get those things, it feels like rejection. You've been performing for validation, whether you realize it or not. You've been posting just to prove you're still in the game, even though it hasn't felt like your game in a long time. And you've been performing for results. You've been pushing harder, not because it's working, but because slowing down feels scarier. And then last but not least, you've been performing for your upline, your downline, the algorithm. And all the while, there's been this relentless voice in your head telling you, you are only as good as your last post. Look, this is a hard place to be, right? Silently suffering, putting on a good face, but having to push through it all. Look, this is the trap that you're in. And this is the reason why you wear the mask. Because when you're writing to prove and when you're performing, you're not doing it from belief. And somewhere along the way, the mask that we wear, it starts to feel like our real voice. And so we talked about this before, but I want to share it again because this is so important. We wind up becoming the performer where we're polishing every single word, trying to look like we're winning, but wondering if we're falling behind. We become the teacher, over-delivering, trying to sound smart and helpful, but deep down inside, being afraid that we're not enough. We become the pusher. Everything's about hyping the products and pushing the promotion, right? And it's like our business is depending on every single push. And then the disconnected, where we stay surface level because that feels safer. And it feels like that will help us protect ourselves. And so it starts just with the recognition, but also the reminder that it's not your fault, right? It's not your fault. It's just that you've been a byproduct of a system that has failed you. But the thing that no one has told you is this, and this is what you have to realize. The mask that you wear, it doesn't protect you. It silences you. Because every time you show up to perform and prove, you're distancing yourself from your own truth. You're disconnecting from your story, and you're burying your calling. And what happens sometimes is you build a business that looks good on the outside, but it feels hollow on the inside. And maybe that's where you have found yourself, but I'm telling you, it's not where you have to stay. This is the moment that your voice wakes up. We anchored, we aimed, now we're going to activate. And here's what activate means, the third step of the framework. It means you stop writing to be seen, and you start writing to be felt. This is the moment where your voice becomes real again, where your content stops being a performance and it starts becoming something much more powerful, something that people are desperately waiting for, whether you realize it or not, your leadership. See, here's the shift that we help you make today. Your content stops being a performance and it becomes proof of your leadership. Look, I want you to understand this. Your content, it's never been about checking boxes. It's not about staying visible. It's not about showing up daily. You didn't start your business to be a content creator or a social seller. You've just fell into that role because of what everybody else told you that you should be. You started this because you felt a stirring inside of you, a flicker of belief, a pull that you couldn't explain, but you knew, man, I am being called into something more. You didn't start a business. You started a mission to guide others, people who were